Alright, welcome to the final reading. This is definitely most likely the final reading if the arena has no story to read. So, if this is the final one, it'll be the last one until Witcher 3. If not, then the arena will be the last one before Witcher 3. Anyway, the duties and goals of the Lodge. The actions of this secret organization, which united sorcerers from the Northern Kingdoms and Nilfgaard, were revealed relatively late. The 10-member lodge had envisioned as a successor to the Conclave and the Supreme Council of Sorcerers. It was supposed to focus the interest of magic and protect the world from the cataclysm that would result from the disappearance of the art. However, at the time the story was unfolding, and not many knew the organization even exists, apart from the sorcerers belonging to it, of course. Runes of Power number 1. The rune of the art resembles a harp. The rune of war looks like a clenched fist. And the Rune of Thunder is a faithful representation of a striking thunderbolt. Runes of Power 2. The Rune of Depth resembles a scythe. The Rune of the Sky is in line with the parallelogram, or as some would have it, a pursed mouth. And the Rune of the Butterfly is a line crossed twice. Rune of Power 3. The Rune of Life looks like a blooming flower. The Rune of the Animal represents a snake creeping along a riverbed. And the Rune of Fate is a cross within a circle. Runes of Power 4. The Rune of the Weather is an arrow sliced in half. The Rune of Reason looks like a bear dancing on dew. And the Rune of Time resembles an open hourglass or chalice. Alright. Ancient Manuscript. This is a bunch of just, I think it's like Elven language or something. Like Sinav, Bis, Quidjiv the Ook, Orda. Bunch of gibberish, crazy stuff. This is the book that you use to get the best silver sword in the game, I think. Or at least one of them. You have to translate it with a bunch of materials you collect throughout the entire campaign, and it gives you the recipe for the sword. Legend of the Kingslayer. A long time ago, the dragon Ostraverg rampaged and plundered the sacred temple of Feria on the Skellige Islands. He had 3 brothers. That paragraph is already there. The second oldest brother ultimately slew the dragon. He deemed it just that his elder brother, who had proved himself a coward and fled the beast, would inherit their father's title and lands. Thus he pursued his brother to strip him of his birthright. Since he could not force the Oathbreaker to renounce his claim, he killed his brother with his sacred blade. The deed brought a curse down upon him, and he became known as the Kingslayer. As the anathema was warded, he would live as long as he wore his complete outfit. The Kingslayer traveled to Loch Muin for a sorcerer to claim he could lift the curse that had summoned him there. In fact, the mage had lied. He merely wished to unlock the secrets of the wondrous armor. He asked the Kingslayers for his sword, and when the brother parted with his blade, the prophecy was fulfilled. The diagrams of the Kingslayer's offer remain hidden amongst the ruins of Loch Muin to this day. Philip Earhart's notes. This is like notes that you were gone. 5 candles form the magic circle with the arrangement of being correct. Only one arrangement being correct, though through trials I managed to recreate it. Sketch illustrates my research. This was to unlock the dagger you needed to use on Saskia. And here's Derhana's notes. Derhana's Memoirs 1. I have started reviewing the manuscripts. The city's annals have survived only in part. The most intriguing volumes seem to be missing. Curiously, up to this point I have not found a single mention of the Vrans. I have happened on an intriguing document, and its content is encrypted, and the dialect itself is strange. Deciphering is consuming a lot of time. I have recognized the word of reptiles as a promising thread. The document bears the seal of one Goveth. I have never heard of this individual. That's notes 5. Notes 3. I finally reached a place described by Goveth. My worst suspicions have been confirmed, as I found cells filled with the bones of lizard men. The Vrans. There are many more documents too. If the figures can be trusted, the mutated virus is terrifyingly effective. Reptilian tissue must have decomposed instantly. Number 4. I've started to record the mutation procedures once more, this time in a magically protected tome. I now also realize how serious and far-reaching my discovery might prove. If this disease attacked both the Vrans and those unshared who were not vaccinated. What will happen if someone mad or vile enough to be found among humans? Notes 5. I regret having learned this dark episode in the city's history. I've become wary of danger. The elves must surely be aware that someone discovered their secret. I made my last stroll into the ruins of the Black Academy. I'll seal my laboratory and disappear. This time has finally come to seize Arcania once more. Astrological curios. Long time ago, the princess My microphone decided to turn off, even though I'm talking in it. Anyway, just make sure there's... Okay. I want to make sure the game didn't crash. Long time ago, the princes of Bremervorg angered the powers of the depths, perhaps even to the gods themselves. Sea dragon began to prowl the coastal waters, killing fishermen and pearl hunters. Poverty and hunger threatened the principality, so that the ruler decided to appease the sea by sacrificing a maiden. For in those darker times, that was the very manner for dealing with economic crises. Luckily for a young woman, a witch was in the area. Strolling along a beach, she noticed a serpentine beast emerging from the water towards a lass, who was chained to a seaside rock in less than a decent pose. Witcher killed the dragon, freed the woman, and, as if chronicles tell us, plowed her with her consent on the aforementioned rock. We can see a reflection of those events in the summer sky, and one condition that our silver lady does not show her face. There's a fearful lass looking west towards the dragon, slithering ever closer, and beyond this, the Witcher sneaking up from the beast from behind. The gnomes of Makaman and Tir Tokar. In the north, the gnomes are very widely known to inhabit Makaman, where they coexist in full harmony with the dwarves without any of the discord that usually arises when two races inhabit a single area. Both the gnomes and dwarves in the mountainous region make a living by mining and processing the untold mineral riches found there. Yet the mountains, hills, and vales of Makaman are not home to the largest gnomish population. The honor belongs to Tir Tokar, where the diminutive creatures produce legendary weapons that are exported both north and south. The famous Gwyrs forged according to gnomish technology are reputed to be the best blades in the world. The less known than the swords themselves, the blast furnaces and steam hammers which the gnomes and dwarves use to smelt metal and work alloys deserve the same admiration. If you know that the Tir Tokar began lead export of the beautiful opals after earthquake revealed the thick seams of precious mineral. Gnomes are unrivaled masters of the jeweler's craft, and Mount near the slope which collapsed to reveal the deposits is now called Treasure Mountain, as the opal is mined directly from one of its faces. Astrological charts, bunch of degrees and stuff. Legendary treasures. Among the acknowledged treasures of the last century, three have gained exceptional fame. First is the Amber Chamber, which Frifuro Demervin's father took as a spoil when he defeated Medieval of Temeria. This breathtaking masterpiece, a chamber's decor made entirely from amber, was sadly lost in the storm of war. Either buried or destroyed, all traces of it had disappeared. The second treasure belonged to the dragon Ostavitz of Quartz Mountain, known as the Crystal Mountain or the Mountain of the Burning Sands. A group led by Yarp and Zigrin killed the beast and took the treasure, which included sapphires singular in hue and diamonds as large as cherries. Said gems that set the jewelry market into disarray. The third legendary treasure of this century is shrouded in mystery, for both its composition and details of how and where it was found remain secret. One thing is certain, it is included ancient artifacts of untold power. One of the items exploded and claimed the lives of three of the five mages studying it. The world at large might have heard about the discovery on this occasion, but not long after the tragic accident, a veil of silence once again descended on the matter. I don't know what that could be. Venom's and Poisons, that's from before. Marco's notes, Marco. Let's finally scribble notes. Yeah, that's from before. Slaves of the Curse. Drogs are commanders or droggers of the race soldiers. Oh, yeah. Drog calls droggers exist as the battlefields and the cemeteries by sheer force's will. Like the Drog himself, these minions arise from the damsels trapped within the shells formed with the remnants of arms, armor, war machines, and corpses that were torn apart by scavengers. I don't think I read that before. Legendary curse that the Drog is a mythical creature issues straight from the ancient legends of heroes and their epic deeds. When a hero descends into fire hell to rescue his beloved, or when I did read that one. Song of the Hunt, that was a quest one. That's the first letter to the Emperor. Malget's notes, the Visionary notes. Yeah, that's the Magic and Power. I read that. Auckland, yeah, that's the Chalice. History of the Council of the Mages. History Council sources consisted of talented mages, most of whom were also advisors of the rulers in other kingdoms. Philip Arlhart and Candian of Lannister were among others its members. The only one member of the council turned out to be an Nilfgaardian supporter during the Thanad Rebellion. A large part of its members were neutral mages, and that caused a split in the body. Though most of the council's members survived those events, the loss of importance and the king's support resulted in because nothing's. I think it's nothing's happening. Result in disbanding the association. The sorcerers lost most of their previous influence in the north. Got Cecil stuff. Through the captain's journal from Ayla Tarn, Supreme Council Mages, the research and exploration conducted in Loch Marine. That's that boat one. There's the succubus. Life and Death of the White Rose. I think I read this. Story one known as the White Rose of Sherwood is both sad and tragic. Yeah, I read that. White Flame, yeah. That's that guy, Wild Hunt. Alright, that should be it for the books. On to the journal. Alright, do what I did before. The special forces up there at Red Haze, so I want to keep the Red Haze at the bottom. Nothing new there. Vale Pass is the same one. And the Wild Hunt, okay. I want to see if Aramil, an elf from a parallel world, was pursued by the spectral riders to Loch Buin, where he found a moment of respite. He left massive, according to which King of the Hunt desires to fling open the gates between the worlds of all time, so that chaos and terror might reign in our world as well. Oh shit! I don't remember reading that. That kind of explains their what they're planning to do in Witcher 3. Here we go. That's awesome. I don't remember how I learned that information in the game. It definitely wasn't voiced. Alright, that's just... Oh yeah, the tutorial would be the best one to do. Oh, there's crafting as well after that, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Alright, we go over there. Get the draw gear, necrophages, and then Dagger Hide reinforcements will be at the bottom. This doesn't really matter, and they decay around Ericus and all that stuff. Oh, we got Syrian. It doesn't go down that far, does it? Well, at the very least, let's go to the top. Gaspar and Farid. We got New Boy. I think it's Gaspar and Farid, and then the troll Flotsam. Dimitri there, but let's see. Farid. Yep. Fared what's more. The Witcher ran to Fared what's more unexpected circumstances. Oh yeah, the expedition ended tragically for Farid. He died in a trap set by the malicious Derhana. And Gaspar, expedition ended tragically for Gaspar. He died in a trap set by the malicious Derhana. I did not mean to close out of that. Let's just do this. The quest ones are always the last one, but since there's no exclamation marks, I could do it through here, and then move my way to the right. Clear that up. Dungeon La Valette Castle, I read that. Temerian Quarter. During the summit of the Mages and Monarchs, the camp of the Temerian delegation led by John Natalis extended over an entire district of Loch Muin. Plenty of diplomats milled around the camp, but soldiers were present in far greater numbers. The servers of Loch Muin. For ages, humans viewed elves as being both beautiful and refined, as a race seemingly molded out of a better clay than men. While perceiving them thus, humans also asked themselves, do elves pee? Few wonder anymore, but if there's still a tangible proof, we found in the sewers of Loch Muin. The colossal system of corridors and canals rouses envy in human builders. It served the city's inhabitants for long years, and today has become a shelter and breeding ground for monsters. Those who do not fear beasts can use the sewers to travel discreetly between the city's quarters. Witchers do not fear monsters. Alright, there's probably a whole chapter 3 of its own. So yeah, I doubt there's anything else. Yep. Alright, let's go all the way to the bottom. I think they'll help out with the persons though. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I guess I missed that for the chapters you were reading. Well, Scoia'tael units are made chiefly of young, rash elves who need not think twice before they take up arms in the fight for non-human freedom. Elias was such an elf, and was considered to be one of the best warriors in Yorvis unit to boot. Elias hired the Witcher to kill a succubus, a monster seduced and killed young men. The succubus, however, claimed that the jealous elf was actually the murderer. Indeed, there was evidence to prove her claim against Elias. When the Witcher decided to tell Yorveth about his suspicions, Elias took the chance and fled, a fact that would support the notion his conscience was burdened. Elias hired the Witcher to kill a succubus, a monster that succeeded in seduced and killed young men. The succubus, however, claimed that the jealous elf was actually the murderer. Indeed, there was evidence to prove her claim against Elias. In the situation, the Witcher decided killing Yorvis and Judge Edgerson would prove to be the lesser evil, and so, after a short fight, Elias' life ended. I'm just going to go through here, and then there's not much I can do. Molinos from Flotsam. Louise Merce. Flotsam. Okay, there's New Boy. Got Cecil and Scoia'tael. I think I read those before. Troll of Ergen. Troll kidnapping a beautiful sorceress. I could believe that. Troll abandoned by his wife for that reason. That's ballad material. Yet not many people would believe in a ballad which a troll asked for a witcher for help. The grateful Troll returned Triss's ribbon to Geralt, so he ended this part of the story. Final episodes took place when both creatures arrived at Vergen to help defend it. The Kedwinian had occasionally learned the phrase, "The monstrosities of war" could be more than a figure of speech. She Troll of Vergen. I can confirm, based on my own experience, that the feelings of jealousy for a partner and demands for monogamy, even made for the wrong reasons, can cause many a quarrel and even on occasion outright end a relationship. As it turned out, she-trolls are not immune to these feelings and are perfectly capable of turning into screamers, thus spoiling the ideal of the family hut. Once more, Geralt was put the cart before the horse, as the Witcher's rules go, and stood aside the monster rather than the humans. He even managed to convince the troll to return to her husband, who eagerly awaited her. The final episode took place when both creatures arrived in Vergen to help defend it. Kedwinian, yeah, I read that. I guess I missed that somehow. Yeah, there's Therorak and... That's weird. Well, I'll just go through and reread the chapter 2, people. I don't know if I read it during the chapter, or not chapter 1, but like at the end of it when I met the people, because I remember going to the city before reading, so let's see. I don't think any of these people are from chapter 2. Oh, it's from like way in the beginning. Is that, That's that keeps wanting to turn off. What the fuck? Overgirl, the brothel of Flotsam, was the favorite of the medical. Oh, right, she was Margot's. I thought that was the elf that had helped. I was like, what the fuck? Alright, Cecil Burden. When we arrived at Vergen, we learned that the town's elder was named Cecil Burden. The former dwarven miner was typical of his kin, realistic, substantive, and possessed of a sober outlook. Vergen needed an administrator like that, so Burden was beyond doubt the right dwarf in the right place. Scanlan Burden. Cecil's nephew, the young Scanlan Burden, had been taken in by the alderman after the lad's parents perished in one of the non-human massacres that occurred in Aedirn. As friendly, hard-working, and efficient as his uncle, Scanlan took it upon himself to act in Vergen's official representative in his uncle's absence, providing all newcomers to the town with any information or assistance they needed. Kaylan revolutions breed monsters, and Kaylan was one beyond all doubt, embodying the most primitive peasant desires, frustrations, and fears. He was not bound by moral chains. Such people can commit acts most foul, and the list of this once simple farmer's atrocities was long indeed. I don't know that. What the hell? Okay, that's interesting. So it turned out the young adept of magic of Felicia Cordy was a talented confuse. Geralt could avail himself of her services and change his hairstyle for a modest fee. Young sorcerers from the school of Astru must, apart from passing exams, complete an internship under the mistress's watchful eye. As part of such an internship, the young Felicia Corey peddled magical cures of her own production of Vergen. Hopefully, to earn approval in a passing grade, Felicia had come to Loch Marine with Philippa. She waited there for her instructor to find some free time for her. At Loch Marine Central Square, in addition to selling a variety of useful items, Felicia Corey's also offered hairstyling services. It's kind of interesting. I didn't know that they just gave like a random little mini story for the hairstylist. That's pretty cool. I want to make sure this guy. Okay. I just want to make sure the Flotsam bookseller didn't change at all. Okay, I went to that. Irso, shit stench of rats with inherent elements of every larger pop. I want to make sure this isn't Flotsam. Okay, yeah. Shit, stench, and rats are inherent elements of every larger population center. Unable to dispose of the first two, the authorities of Vergen were trying to deal with the latter. Irso was a rat catcher they all had hired. It was worth noting that some of the traps he was selling for large enough to catch a wolf. Highly talented individual, the man known as Irso had dabbled in many professions. From his times as rat catcher to Vergen, he still had a wide selection of traps among his wares. They were, in other words, for rodents among others. Changing his profession also called for a change of surroundings. So Irso joined the circus and left Vergen. One could still buy useful things from him, however. I like that they give like just little stories to the NPCs that sell you stuff. Thorak, the local rune master and an important figure of the dwarf community of Vergen since time immemorial. At present, the role was filled by Thorak, a dwarf who had taken up the legacy of his master, Baltimore, a few years earlier. Thorak ran his workshop impeccably and earning the respect and trust of his kin. He offered services to the highest quality and, like many ambitious artisan, was looking for a way to perfect his techniques and abilities. Only after he died at Geralt's hand was revealed that Thorak had behind the disappearance of his master, Baltimore. Thus ended a story of envy that pushed even honest dwarf to crime. Male, if speech is silver but silence is golden, then male must have been sufficiently rich to do something more interesting than run a shop. Nevertheless, the silent elf had some really interesting goods to offer. Did the troll of Vergen, she-troll, Adam Pangret. Anyone familiar with military history and the annals of war has probably heard of Adam Adu Pangret, one of the sly cats, rabble, rousers, political prisoners, and other convicts whom King Esterthysen freed aid unofficially the military effort of the northern kingdoms during the Second War against Nilfgaard. These men formed the core of the Corvair and Povician military units that streamed south at the time. Adam Pangret commanded the various Free Company during the Battle of Brenna, where the Nilfgaardian offensive was finally broken and the Black Ones had pushed back beyond the Yarugaruga. They say that Adam later wed another soldier of fortune, one Julia Abitimarco, known as Pretty Kitty, who also rose to fame at Brenna. Truly without battle would have taken an entirely different course. While exploring the ravines, Geralt chanced upon Pangret and his men fighting a troll. Since the monster's death would decidedly not suit the Witcher's interest, and Pangret and his men refused to back down, tempers flared and a fight broke out between them. Yet the soldier of fortune was shocked enough to recognize the Witcher's technical superiority, and he surrendered to Geralt, thus becoming the conflict's first prisoner of war. Ethelon. The inhabitant of the hut near the quarry had one of the oddest jobs I've ever heard of. Namely, Ethelon served as a purchased agent for a collector of harpy feathers, offering the Witcher generous sums for pinions and rectrices picked from the carcasses of harpies. So it turned out Ethelon was not buying feathers for a collector but for himself. With a sack full of plumage Garrick supplied, he finally fulfilled his dream of transforming himself from Umlig duckling into a swan, or precisely a queen harpy. Mighty Numa. Mighty Numa's moniker was not baseless. This huge man supposedly had an inhuman girt, which he was likely to show off by, among other things, arm wrestling. He had no equal in his discipline. They say his grip could crush the hands of weaker opponents. Many tried to win the title of champion from him, yet nobody had managed to best him at this competition. Succubus. The Torch Village near Vergen provided to be the home of a real succubus. This beautiful creature possessing hooves instead of feet drew young men to their order to seduce them and feed on their life forces. The seductress was accused of brutally murdering many young men, and the accusation seemed to be solid. For you must know that the unpleasant scent of sulfur is not the sole inconvenience one must endure when encountering succubi, which can be as dangerous as vampires. Geralt investigated the murders thoroughly. He concluded that the succubus was innocent and that it was feigned by a jealous lover. The Witcher cleared out the seductress of the charges, and she proceeded to thank him in her customary beautiful manner. Baltimore. Having spent some time in Vergen, I've heard much more about the famous runesmith Master Baltimore, whom the local doors revered. Mastering the profession is question requires practice over scores of years, and runes cast into weapons or tools supposedly grant them unusual properties. We did not meet Master Baltimore, however, as he had disappeared several years before the events described herein. Yet his handiwork was, and is still, reputed to be the pinnacle of the difficult art of forging runic signs. Either Baltimore really was paranoid, or he had a good reason to believe that his life was in danger. Thanks to some notes, Geralt ascertained that the runesmith's disappearance had been the work of his apprentice, envious of his teacher's secrets. The poisoning Clint, the priest of the Prince Dennis routine, turned out to be directly responsible for poisoning Saskia. The clergyman apparently thought a heavy dose of Thermidor would be more effective than a prayer of excommunication. Fortunately, because he was already dead, he could not answer for his deed. Visionary, during my travels, seen prophets, preachers of divine truth, who frothed and gibbered foretellings about the end of the world, depravity, women, lechery, kings, and rising taxes. The visionary extolled for the martyrdom and sanctity of Sabrina Glassifig, and these ideas had become the foundations of a local cult. Supposedly, the sorcerer's favor made him invulnerable and safe. However, there was no way to decipher how much truth lay in his tales. Venomir. Shilar Fitz, Orangey's personal sorcerer, had only just made Geralt's acquaintance when he died at the Witcher's hand. Asir Van Aherd. And ahead, the sorceress came from Nilfgaard, and more precisely, Vikarova, a distinction of extreme importance in the highborn in the Empire, as I can attest from personal experience, as because the term Nilfgaardian is reserved for native residents of the Empire capital and its immediate vicinity. Asir Van Aherd was nothing like the stereotypical Nilfgaardian sorceress. Unkempt things and unfashioned attire. On the contrary, she wore well-cut dresses, underlined her beauty with just the right touch of makeup, following the example of our sorceresses in the north. As the momentous events played out in Lochmuin, Asir was murdered, probably by her own countrymen, possibly on the order of Emperor himself. The hazy circumstances surrounding her death gave rise to much speculation in Nilfgaard, fueling propaganda and political conflicts for some times to come. Barras of Bernard. Human sources have been fascinated with Lochmarine from the very beginning, and Barras of Bernard was one of the many who wanted to fathom its mysteries. During his travels and research, he had come into possession of several quite interesting weapons. He sold those to any of those whose pouch was deep enough to cover their expense. Water time. Alright. Barnard Magical School for carolers, singing, and gambling. Lockhart was selling his magical tomes and amulet at quite a moderate prices. Alona, a bearded elven woman, is an exceptional sight, even if the beard is false. When there were no crowds, Iona made ends meet by running a food shop. Marcus, mighty Numa's assistant, made money on the side by, among other things, selling healthy food, the foundation of a healthy diet. Adalbert was a member of the scientific expedition that set out to explore the caverns beneath Loch Muin. The man started out as unpleasant even among sorcerers. One could even say that Geralt disliked him from the start, and the feeling was very much mutual. Adalbert had it coming since the start, as the explorers penetrated the underground corridors, whose ever haughty, offering caustic remarks and never really being useful. Once the expedition discovered Denhera's laboratory, Adalbert sought to prevent Geralt from getting his part of the loot. Heated words turned to violent deeds, and Geralt gladly killed the mage. Cynthia. Geralt not expected to run to Cynthia again, he let alone in such an unusual place. But he did. The Nilfgaardian was leading a scientific expedition that was to explore the caverns beneath Loch Muin. Their objective was to reach the laboratory of the famous Terhana. Throughout their quest beneath the city's ruins, Geralt had remained wary of Cynthia, and for good reason. Yet as they worked together to overcome mortal danger, the ice between them melted. When a quarrel broke out over the Terhana's legacy, the sorceress Adalbert wanted to kill the Witcher. Cynthia, however, took Geralt's side. Kanduin of Land Exterior had once been the member of Council of Sorcerers. During the Thanatic coup, he attempted to maintain both reason and neutrality. He certainly offered proof of the former when it turned out those conspiring with Nilfgaardian thought nothing of his partially, and teleporting back to Corvia was extremely reasonable and life-saving course of action. Their protests were for naught. Carduin and the other majors are arrested in connection with the accusations against the Lodge of Sorcerers. Falas, the business ability to adapt one's skills in half battle. After losing his workshop, the former elven swordsmith Falas earned his living as a sword swallower, and though his clients are few, Falas still provided reliable services in his former profession. We got Triss Marigold. Is there anything new for her? Dang it. Triss Marigold, and the rest of it. Triss had reached Adder, and there was evidence to prove it. Finding her would prove difficult, however. In Adder, the search for Triss ended with the discovery of bitter truth. Transformed into a Nephirite figurine, she had ironically been in the possession of the oblivious Geralt for the time, and he had brought her straight to the Nilfgaardian camp. The Nilfgaardian emissary envisioned a special part for her in Loch Muin. Testimony Shallard extracted Triss was used to accuse the sorcerers, in a way Miss Marigold contributing involuntarily to the witch hunt greater than any before it. In the end, the sorceress was freed by a witcher, yet it was not Geralt. Thanks to Lethal, she escaped unharmed. I am sure she would be glad to forget the time she spent in Nilfgaardian captivity. Thus were lovers reunited among the ruins of Loch Muin after a long parting, and the story of Triss Marigold's kidnapping ended. Alright. Okay, there's nothing new for Geralt. Won't be anything new for King Foltest, that's for sure. Is there anything for Dandelion? Alright. Obviously, when Geralt decided to continue his search in Vergen, located in the borderlands soon to be engulfed in flames of war, I chose to accompany him. For the Witcher could at times be naive as a child, knew much as about politics as a ghoul knows about cooking. Thus, the chances were slim to none that, for fit my help, he would manage to find the new leads without getting embroiled in some trouble along the way. As his friend, I clearly could not allow that. Having taken part in many adventures by Geralt's side, when he asked for my help, I agreed without hesitation. I had already been imperiled when helping him in less rewarding tasks and using poetry to lure an unparalleled demonic lover. Thus I had the chance to risk my life in the name of those most beautiful values, friendship, poetry, love. There was no other decision to make. Geralt and Yorveth headed for Loch Muin to meet their destiny, yet I decided to stay in Vergen a bit longer. I had more than enough material for new ballads, and therefore I fought the urge to reach Loch Muin in time to witness the important events transpiring there. Thus I know the rest of the story only from the accounts of others. The rest of the story only accounting from the accounts of others, yet I present here as faithfully as possible. Anything omitted was surely was not worth the mention in the first place. Vernon Roche. Continues private investigation. Vernon headed for the Temeria and Darien border, where he expected to find clues to the Kingslayer's whereabouts. Thanks to his very best informant, Roche knew where the man could be hiding in among the Scoia'tael. Oh, I read the Flotsam. To put it mildly, Roche was irritated with Geralt's decision, and his trust in the Witcher did not grow. Because of his contacts with the Scoia'tael, Geralt lost the chance to work with Vernon and Roche. Their ways parted. Vernon's help was unexpected as it was invaluable. Even though Geralt stood with his opponents, Roche helped the Witcher, saving him from certain death. Furthermore, he did so out of kindness, thus providing the details his callousness was somewhat exaggerated. Roche not only provided him with valuable information, but also risked his death, helping him to acquire royal blood. Though Geralt had not sided with him fully earlier, Vernon trusted that the Witcher would be able to get to Foltest's murderer. Though the meeting was to be their last, at least in this story. At least in this story? Is that like a hint that he's going to appear in Witcher 3? That'd be cool. Geralt never forgot the debt he owed to the Blue Stripes captain. Lucy and all them. Shallard. Many northern kings appear in the story, rash and thoughtful, amorous and frigid, brave and cowardly. The reader should easily see that should their crowns be removed and a pitchfork, sword, and a bunch of bills or a goat's apple given in the scepter's stead, they would be as human as we are. The same, however, cannot be said about the Emperor of Nilfgaard, the white flame dancing in the burrows of his enemies, whose shadow fell over all the events I have written down. In this case, the shadow was represented by Charlard Fitz-Orenstein, a consummate diplomat who started more than one war, only to end it accompanying homage from the defeated. The meeting with Charlard during Geralt's visit to the camp was not as friendly as their previous ones. It turned out that Charlard's gambit saw the Witcher as a pawn blocking his way to Triss Merigold. Charlard intended to use her in political intrigues, and since Geralt had become an inconvenience, the envoy ordered him killed without a second thought, and then he headed for Lochmuin. I do not know the nature of the deal's link between Fitz-Orenstein and Radovid V the Stern. One can easily assume that they served the Emperor's political interests first and foremost. Geralt had heard enough of Charlard's political games and began repaying the debts that the Bastard had incurred with the delicate assault on the envoy's personal vulnerability. The same came. Then came the smashing of his face. The Nilfgaardian emissary's speech caused more confusion at Lochmuin summit than an attack by the Emperor's Imperial Brigade would have. If Samhain Chaos was the Emperor's goal, then Fitz-Orenstein discharged his duties exquisitely. Aaron La Valette. The fate seeks to forever amuse itself, and towards its purposes likes to play tricks. Brought the former foes together once more as they both... On to reveal the... Imagine the Witcher's surprise when I learned that the heroic youth had survived after all, and turned to King Radovid Redania for help in finding his sister, Annis. Kingslayer. Letho, Squirrels. Alabash, who's where to kidnap Triss. The magic sent Geralt a vision and gave us another bit of information. Letho had been in the area earlier and ordered the accomplices to assassinate King Hensel. The Kingslayers had been working with Sheila to Transylville, but just as with Yorvet, their paths diverged. Whatever finale would conclude in the story, Letho claimed it would take place in Lochmuin. I listened to the rest of the tale with bated breath. Led to the summit by the Nilfgaardian envoys, Letho publicly accused the sorceress of commissioning the assassinations of the northern monarchs. Kingslayer's intricate plan was revealed too late. Letho had been working for the Nilfgaardian Empire from the very beginning. His mission to seek chaos before the Black Ones embarked upon a new war. Taking advantage of the ambitions of the Lodge of Sorcerers, its contacts, financial means, not to mention the support of the oblivious Scoia'tael partisans, Letho had eliminated two of the Northlings' most important monarchs, plunging their realms into chaos. On top of that, he had thrown suspicion on the sorcerers who were just regaining their standing. Thus was the force which he had stopped Nilfgaard at sudden death. Stopped Nilfgaard at Sodden and dealt a truly shattering blow. Now Geralt only had to confront the Kingslayer himself so that the man could confirm or deny the Witcher's suspicions. Only Letho knew the truth of the backroom intrigue which had left the North running with the Bloody Kings. Now I shall tell you about their final meeting and its conclusion. Fortunately, there's no journal entry for that. Alright, we did that. Yorveth. When Yorveth chose to fight for the Free Pontar Valley, when he swore an oath of allegiance to Saskia, he stood alongside the humans defending Vergen. Few trusted this sudden shift in his uncompromising enemy of the Dwan and Elf, responsible for more than one raised village and the tears of more than one mother over a slain son. The Squirrel Commander had Saskia's full confidence, however, that put an end to all discussion. The relations between Vernon Roche and Yorveth were certainly complicated. Scoia'tael openly hated the Blue Stripes commander and doubtless wanted his death. Yet one could see in him a shout of respect for the Temeria's abilities and tenacity. The fact that the elf could give it even a hated enemy his due was, I think, to his credit. Yorvith had been living in hatred and shedding human blood for years, and the question of whether he still knew what he was fighting for remained an open one. Even those who had known him longer had their doubts. When Yorvith disappeared from the poisoning after the poisoning of Saskia, nobody expected to see him again. Some whispered that he'd been behind the poisoning, or that he simply lost the will to fight. Nobody believed the tale of his talk of elven archers. Time would show that what his promises were worth. Scoia'tael doubtless had a sense of dramatic timing. His reinforcements could not have become a more appropriate moment, and his motion, felt by all defenders, including yours truly, was pure euphoria. Yorvith proved himself a person who did not waste words or abandon allies in need. If I had any doubts about him, they dissipated together with the smoke which hung over Vergen. Yorvith was determined to save Saskia and settle the score with the sorceress. He and Geralt set out to Lochmoon to close the final chapter of this story. There they had to split up. Yorvith went to search for Philippa's quarters, and Geralt didn't hear from him for some time. It's fair guess the Scoia'tael leader was not idle in the meantime. Yorvith, as he was wont to do, appeared as if from nowhere, just in time to help escort the sorceress to her quarters. On the way, he made it clear to her that, if not for the circumstances, their meeting would have been far less pleasant to her. The elf recovered needed to lift the spell from Saskia, though Yorvith could only hope that Geralt would do his best not to kill the dragoness. Scoia'tael took the risk and placed his trust in the Witcher. They had already been comrades arms for the good or ill for some time. Zoltan Shive. Zoltan went with us to Vergen and, with enthusiasm worthy of his military post, began training the local militia, though they would soon see its baptism of fire. Though it appeared that they would have a hard time, Zoltan was ready to defend the cause he believed in, fighting at the side of the elves and men. Given occasion to heave an axe in good company, Zoltan grabbed it fast from the neck and unlaced a woman's corset, which is pretty fast, provided I'm sober. He followed Geralt without hesitation to prove his words, showing that there's more to him than just a loud mouth. Zoltan won great renown during the defense of Vergen, closing the gate and stopping King Henselt's retreat nearly single-handedly. Thus he sealed the victory of the Kedwinian army that memorable day. Just as I did, Zoltan decided to remain to Vergen when Geralt and Yorvith chose to travel Lochmoon to complete the final chapter of this story. There's still much to do in this newly independent Bontar Valley. The dwarf turned out to be the right sort to take up some of the responsibilities. Bernard Lorito. We know what happens to him at the end of the game, but did they say anything else? No. John Natalis. Seems that every other person you meet took part in the last war against Nilfgaard. Since such were the times in which we live, yet we best remember those who made their mark in the annals of the conflict. John Natalis, Constable of Temeria, is one such person. Supreme commander of the cumulative forces of the north in the Battle of the Brenna, Natalis fought valiantly, commanded wisely, and contributed vastly to the victory, despite being outnumbered by an enemy 2-1. Yet he did not rest on laurels after the battle. Instead, he pursued the foe, routing him to Necnute, Clytus, or nearly so, leaving but a few stragglers to flee beyond the Urga. John Natalis was honored richly for his deeds, and a square in Vizima now bears his name. After Foltest's death, Natalis served as the regent of Temeria. As a patriot soldier, he was the ideal a political candidate for the position of Interix. Those same traits, however, meant that he lacked the support of powerful nobles and thus could not speak for the united voice of Temeria as a whole. Sheila Tarnseville. It seems Sheila had specific plans concerning the King's Insult, Kedwin, and his attempts to father heir. From what I've been able to tell, the meddling of Sheila and other sorcerers in the world of politics was further reaching than anyone had imagined. The shocking truth about Sheila Tarnseville and the more important pieces of the puzzle concerning her role in the events in the north will not fully be revealed for some time. But Geralt chanced upon the first clue of her complexity by pure coincidence. One of the dreams stolen by the Harpies pointed to her as one of the commissioned the assassination of the King of Adder and Demavin. Sudden failure of the megasoap would have had tragic consequences, but Geralt's heart was soft. Sheila disappeared from Lochmoon, and there was no further news of her. Sert. Sometimes a person's name sticks in the marrow and bears fangs to one heart. to its first mention. Who was this mysterious Seret? Whose goals drove him, and what role would he play? Geralt had yet to learn of this. Seret was probably one of the Witchers Roche had mentioned. He and Ox trying to cover Lotho's escape when Chile located their hideout. Though both died in the end, they completed the task, buying the last King Slayer time to flee. Ox. Ox is probably the first, which is okay. That's the same thing as that guy. Insult. Actually, Henselt's all part of chapter 2, so let me take a drink of water real quick. Oh boy. Yeah, I guess I missed a lot of the characters during the previous reading. Either way, as long as it's done in the course of the journal readings, that's all that really matters in the end, I suppose. Anyway, the Witcher once said in his life he had met thieves who resembled city counselors who were like begging louts, harlots who behaved like princesses, and princesses who smelled like pregnant cows, and kings who looked like thieves. King Foltest did not look exactly like a thief, but with all due respect, he was not far off. He owed the resemblance only partially to his bearded countenance, beardy eyes, and his wandering yet penetrating gaze. His annexation of Lower Mark, called Upper Edirne by its natives at a time when Edirne was fighting off the Nilfgaardian horde at its southern border, was considered a theft. And the now dead King Demovid judged his deed severely and communicated this in curt yet resonant words. Yet that was not the sole reason for King Henselt's reputation as an unpleasant person, which bolstered by the monarch's ambitions and quarrels with his neighbors, and by his ruthless policies toward non-humans, whom he persecuted with the passion, squandering his realm's strength and funds. Alright, my headset's about to die, so let me get the cord real quick. Aging Henselt did not have a living heir, and the rumor was that he found producing another son somewhat troublesome. Henselt's virility may have been lessened with age, but his ambition certainly had not. The king wanted to wage a war and reclaim Lormark, a province he had already given up once, no matter the cost. Henselt accepted the unthinkable. He shed some of his royal blood for a stranger. Anything was acceptable for further pursuit of his long-desired war. The ruler could not have felt worse if he had been kicked in the crotch. Defeated by the Virginian irregulars, comprising of peasants, local gentry, dwarves, elves, and led by a female, he was forced to renounce his territorial claims to Edirne, and officially confirm this at Lochmuin Summit. I'll remember the look on his grizzled mug for the rest of my life. Until eagerly engaged in another partition. Kedwin and Redania divided their weakened neighbor, the chaos-riddled Temeria. Philippa Earhart. It was hardly the first time Geralt and I encountered Philippa Earhart, the jewel of the court of the Tetragor and once trusted sorceress of King Vesemir II. Philippa was one of the most talented mages of those times. Only a handful ever mastered the art of polymorphy. Her intellect and influence she held at the Redanian court were not to be underestimated. Proud, independent, extremely beautiful, as graceful as the fanciful yet elegant dress in a man's traveling outfit, she was beyond any doubt one of the most attractive women I've ever known. Yet I cannot count Philippa among the most pleasant of females, despite her speedwell through churly charm. Her gaze alone was enough to make the most confident men shudder, and the mere thought of spending a night with her would make their flesh creep. At the time, Philippa Earhart was staying in the town of Vergen as part of Saskia the Dragon Slayer's inner circle. Her motives remained unclear, to say at least. The former court magician had never been known for altruism. However, one cannot deny that without her help, Geralt would not have found a way through the magical mist. Philippa rendered him as an invaluable service at the time. Her qualification in the area of curses, magic, and supernatural phenomena was undeniable. If there's anyone to help the Witcher in this regard back then, it was certainly Miss Earhart. Still, I was extremely glad that it was Geralt and not I who was forced to speak to the Tetragor magician. It was Philippa who gave the Witcher the list of the ingredients for the antidote of the poison plaguing Saskia. The knowledge of recipes, ingredients, and their specific properties is always extremely helpful in learning a magical arcana. Few can equal Earhart in that regard. Philippa tricked everyone, not only casting a charm on Saskia under the guise of aid, but also using Geralt and Yorveth in their machinations. On the one hand, it was inevitable. On the other hand, it left a bitter aftertaste, giving rise to the thought that the sorcerer's misdeeds are responsible for the widespread mistrust towards the profession and perhaps even towards the female gender. Earhart abducted Saskia and left for Lochmuin. Back then, we did not know what she was planning. If Philippa Earhart encountered troubles coming to end in Lochmuin, she miscalculated. She was arrested by Redanians just after arriving at the place of the dungeon where she awaited the king's judgment. In retribution for certain events of the past, not to mention her recent activities, the sorceress was brutally blinded during the initial interrogation. Death seemed an increasingly likely prospect, and it seemed only a miracle could save her. Geralt had no desire to help a magician who repaid his trust with treason, but Philippa's arguments were justified. Only she could lift the spell from Saskia, thus the witch was forced to trust her words once more. One might have thought that blind, exhausted sorceress would have no hope to flee, yet she seized the moment in which both their guardians were distracted and deceived them. Philippa Arhart risked it all in one gambit to transform an owl fleeing Loch Muin. Given the presence of this vengeful Yorveth, one might say that fear gave wing to her escape plan. Saskia. Nothing drives revolt forward like the right leader, especially one who's a young girl known for performing the miraculous feats of valor in the battlefield. When Jonah Arc goes to the infamous Falca, history is full of women who led fanatically devoted hosts to victory. Interestingly, all these heroines were not only charismatic, but also extremely beautiful. The squint-eyed, gap-toothed, pockmarked generally have trouble arousing the masses. Saskia, whom men would have fallen to fire, was no exception. She was a smooth-skinned lass with blonde hair, dark brows, and largely eyes, shapely lips. Her full breast perfectly complemented her rounded hips. In other words, she was the ideal icon for rebellion. For a dear reader, if a man in battle receives the appropriate motivation in the form of a lovely female arse, he is likely to achieve miracles in its wake. Where there is no such arse to lead the way, the freedom fighter's thoughts quickly turn to harvest time, and his own woman and half-pint of booze at the end. News had already reached us of the heroic Saskia, a woman who had cut Winian's armies at bay. At this time, however, it seemed little more than exaggerated rumors. As any true hero, there are many incredible tales about Saskia. Some claimed she was invulnerable to fire and thus survived the terrible battle when Sabrina had rained the very flames of hell upon the combatants. The girl was also famous for killing a dragon. One was hard-pressed to find a better material for a local hero. Word of Saskia's deeds had traveled far beyond Edred's borders. She was a heroine in the eyes of many, which surprised me most that she had made an impressive impression on Yorveth, who had high hopes for her. Even Yorveth grew doe-eyed when he gazed at her. This is especially puzzling because Scoia'tael are generally unmoved by human women, even those who thought to be extremely beautiful. Once Geralt discovered the whole truth about Saskia, all the pieces of the puzzles fit into place. Saskia, a high-bred dragon, could assume any form she desired, even that of a human. Saskia achieved a great victory, entering another chapter in her legend. There was, however, something baffling about the speed which she set off to Loch Muin, where she hoped to convince the rest of the North that she recognized the Pontar Valley as an independent state. Saskia was no longer her own mistress. He or she who commanded the dragon stood to attain great power indeed. All were surprised when Saskia appeared. The dragoness quickly demonstrated herself to be a lethal tool controlled by someone else. Thanks to the magical dagger, the spell was lifted and Saskia regained her free will. Prince Stennis. After King Demovin's death, Prince Stennis became heir to the Andarian throne, at least in name. However, pride and chilly disposition rarely win out the love of one's own subjects. That was very much Stennis' problem. His youth did not strengthen his claim either, though one would openly question the prince's claim to the crown. Stennis did not have enough support to actually have it placed upon his head. Given the situation, sitting out important events would have been a political suicide. The war for the Pontar Valley gave him the ideal chance to bolster his position by demonstrating what a good ruler he would make. History has shown time and time again when the realm is in chaos, deeds rather than the words grant one legitimacy in the eyes of one's subjects. Stennis greatly desired to prove himself as the equal or superior of the Virgin of Adern. He had strong support from the nobility, yet the common folk had few reasons to sympathize with him. His refusal to help Saskia said much about the youth's personality, none of it good. The young prince was found guilty of poisoning Saskia, but he considered himself lucky as he merely was imprisoned, not torn to shreds by mobs. Found guilty? What? That wasn't him, it was the other people. Whatever. Deathmold. Apart from the few chance encounters at official banquets, Geralt had occasion to meet and speak more extensively with the sorcerer on Entangled Island. During the bloody coup, when all manner of mages jumped at each other's throats, and their council of conclave ceased to exist, Deathmold and his brother Dithram, both in the service of King Alstrad and King of Kovir at the time, attempted to remain neutral as events unfolded. To no avail, however, those who allied themselves to Nilfgaard thought nothing of the impartiality of others, and many mages simply perished, brought down in fanciful ways by their colleagues' spells, or pierced by the arrows of Scoia'tael summoned to the island of the plotters. Dithram met just the fate, while Deathmold saved himself by fleeing. Deathmold then filled the opening of sorcery advisor at the King Hetzel at Kenwyn. and proceeded to place all of his abilities at the monarch's disposal. During the Battle of Vergen, Deathmold aided the attackers using his magic to destroy fortifications and key defensive positions. It's clear that they had been deprived of his talents. Kedweens would have not penetrated so far. Though Henselt was spared because of his royal lineage, Deathmold made a fate appropriate for tyrant's faithful and hated servant. The sorceress' life ended in the central square of Vergen, a town he had hoped to seize and bring to its knees. Yarpen Zigrin. The friendship with the Yarpen Zigrin stretches back a long time. It began during the famed hunt for the Golden Dragon, which not only caught, but also beat up its hunters. Those events were later described in one of my ballads, and anyone interested in the story should read it. Zigrin, like most of his kin, is characterized by his love of gold, but also by his broady sense of humor, sober outlook, and pragmatism, and his loyalty to his friends. Geralt mentioned that as he later met Yarpen as lads of His Majesty's Secret Service, the Majesty in question being Henselt of Kedwen, for whom they were escorting a secret cargo. Though their own situation is not cheerful at all, they nevertheless aided the Witcher, easily providing the dwarf lord abandoned a friend in need. Sheldon Skaggs. I met the dwarf Sheldon Skaggs for the first time, if I remember correctly, a few years back under the ancient oath Oak Bloberis. Okay. Archie, the local Count Palatine, the public gathered in great numbers to hear my performance. Skaggs is a mighty warrior, straightforward like all his folk, plain and ward, and yet at the same time sensitive about his race and especially in the honor of dwarven women. As a veteran at Sodden and Brenner, where he fought as an officer of the MacGowan Volunteer Detachment, he appreciates songs of military and heroic deeds. He does not hesitate to express his appreciation through material means, thus disproving that those who portray all dwarves as misers and insensitive to true art. And Sabrina Glesevig. Sorceress Sabrina Glesevig was from Eredcairg, the capital of Kedwen, and had been King Henselt's advisor. The reader, however, should not be deceived by the term. The true daughter of the Kedwinian wilderness was famous for her determination and temperament. There was no exaggeration of the rumors that many occasions she would interrupt the king, thumping her fist on the table and yelling he should shut up and listen. And the king would indeed shut up and listen. Sabrina Glesevig's predatory nature was paired to be an equally predatory beauty, which she empathized through her appropriately chosen attire. Add to the power that she commanded as a sorceress, she would become clear that she held a strong position not only in Kedwen, but also beyond its borders. His position could not protect her from the king's wrath, however, when she failed Henselt one time too many. The sorceress ended up at the stake where life ended. Let's start doing this. I'll take a drink of water real quick. Alright, to make sure I had description set up for the video. That just was uploaded. Anyway, Kingslayer's outfit. Lochmuin is a city of many legends, including that of the Kingslayer. Geralt learned of the fabled when he chanced upon a certain crafting diagram. 3 brothers, the sons of the certain Jarl, vowed to kill the dragon Ostraveg and recovered relics and plunder from the Temple of Freya. The dragon perished at the hands of the second eldest brother, whom the eldest provided himself a coward. Drunk of the fame which slaying the dragon and won him, the middle sibling decided to strip his older brother's birthright, became the Jarl's heir himself. When he slew, as in the priestesses cursed him. As long as he wore the sacred outfit, he would be safe, yet he foolishly lost one of his swords and promptly died a disgraceful death. The diagrams of the Kingslayer's outfit scattered throughout Lochmuin would be a treat to any hero only if they were not cursed. By the will of Freya, the armor and swords were remained mortally dangerous to anyone not wearing the complete set. Hardly one to fear a curse, the Witcher began search for the remaining diagrams and the components needed to craft all items. Witcher spent piles of gold, firstly on the diagrams, then on the crafting components of Kingslayer's outfit. The expense is worth it, however, as Geralt now had unrivaled arms and armor. The offer to help Geralt obtain any gold he desired as long as the hero refused to part with any piece. Tome truly rare. Geralt found multiple experts in Dehar's journal in the cellars of Lochmuin, and one, the sorcerer, mentioned a grimoire he had penned. Given its author's genius, the scholarly tome would likely be very valuable. Keep an eye out for it with smart idea without question. Well, Cynthia thought so too. Sorceress had also proved craftier than the hero and outmaneuvered him. Then Hera's masterpiece landed in Nilfgaardian hands. Oh, okay, so the tome did go to her. But if I killed her, it would have been fine. Okay. So they now have the book talking about the chemical warfare. That's great. Dehar's journal. And while Lochmuin cellars and sewers, Geralt chanced upon an interesting item. Upon examination, it proved to be a fragment of Deherna's journal in which the sorcerer described his research into the city's history. Since all things related to Deherna seemed intriguing, the Witcher began looking for other pieces of the journal. The journal experts Geralt found had indicated that Deherna was not interested in Lochmuin's past per se, but in the Vran race that had built the city and the mystery of their extinction. The Witcher quickly realized that the Nilfgaardians were interested in the same, and not because they had a passion for history. Whatever had killed the Vrans could very well be useful to the Emperor as a weapon. Believing Emir capable of genocide, the Witcher grew wary. Yeah, that's great. Oh well. Secrets of Lochmuin. Not far in the larger tower, located in the center of Lochmuin, Geralt ran into a peculiar pair of gentlemen whom I may have already mentioned. If I did not know them, they were alchemists, shady characters calling themselves scholars, while they certainly were not known in academic circles. They informed the Witcher that the great Deherna's laboratories nestled somewhere beneath the ruined city. Although the mage had died many centuries earlier, he remained quite famous. If Deherna's laboratory contained scholarly treasures documenting but a fraction of his knowledge, or even more tantalizing, one of the sorcerer's creations, an expedition in search of it would certainly be worth the effort. Geralt was intrigued and took the alchemists up on their offer and entered the tower to meet the expedition's other members. As it turned out, the other members were all Nilfgaardians, namely the mages Cynthia and Aldebert. Though they found it hard to control himself, as the Black Ones had rattled his chain recently, Geralt engaged in civil conversation. Before he knew it, he had joined the expedition. As possible, he hoped to get something interesting out of Cynthia along the way, though in truth he was curious to see what Deherna had left behind. The expedition promptly entered the sewers to bid to find the sorcerer's laboratory. Sewers, however, were crawling with monsters. Geralt, Cynthia, and Aldebert had to fight off a horde of necrophages. Once the sewers were safe, the explorers could move on towards the laboratory. Lucia Massador to Deherna's workshop, with the team boasted 2 mages. Cynthia demonstrated some of what she could do by dispelling the mirage. The group then encountered another obstacle. A guardian eye, one of Deherna's creations, was poised above the door. Clueless, Geralt approached it, and the eye asked him a riddle. It turned out that Deherna could at times be both childish and witty. The eye would only let those who passed to solve the riddle. One of the alchemists, Gaspar, rushed in with the answer. Little do you know that punishment for being wrong was death. Luckily, Geralt was up on the task and managed to solve the eye's riddle. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and the entrance to Deherna's laboratory stood open. Yet the Witcher company had to set aside marveling at the chamber. A group of Redanian rivals had beat our hero's expedition to the room. There's little sentiment between treasure hunters. If 2 competing groups find themselves simultaneously in a single subterranean chamber, well, only one can survive. Ever wonder where the skeletons were often found in abandoned cellars come from? Me neither. In any case, the skeletons in the cellar were really those of some Redanians who tried to mess with the Witcher. Leaving behind a small stack of corpses, the team moved on, only to encounter yet another guardian. Cynthia worked her magic once more and expected the guardian she revealed ask another riddle. Group of travelers wandered through the dark, 3 gods above them, so 3 were marked. At night they trailed the drake Serpentine and Silver Lady shining and fine. If only a visage which she would deign to unfold. By the day they followed a mountain vault and riches untold. Thus read the riddle. Geralt consulted his companions, concluding that the 3 guides of the riddle who would need to be found in the allegorical forks in the wall in the chamber. Stone plates lay at the foot of each fresco. It's clear that the group could solve the riddle by occupying the plates in the frescoes which they thought presented the guides. The riddle proved quite challenging, but the explorers put their heads together and solved it. Another door stood open before them. Unfortunately, only those standing in the fresco were safe. Still shaken by his companion's guilt, afraid the alchemist chose not to take part and fell victim to more to Deherna's malice. Remaining members of the party paid their respects in silence and moved on. Yet the fearless treasure hunters encountered an obstacle of a different sort inside. Golem crafted by Deherna guarded access to the sorcerer's legacy. Geralt was amazed by Deherna's mastery. The golem he created had proved sharp conversationalist and keen logician. Hardly fortunate for our heroes. Still, as clever as the golem seemed, Geralt decided he would try to dupe it. I must commend Geralt. He treated the talk with the golem like a duel and proved as effective at rhetoric as he was at swordplay. Rhetoric. Whatever. Our hero probed his opponent. Take a drink of water real quick. Our hero probed his opponent, discovering a weakness in his defenses and explored it mercilessly. So it turned out the artificial being, armed to the teeth with logical axioms, lacked common sense. The Witcher laid down some bait and then led its reasoning astray. Golem knew not what to do and was neutralized. The way to the Heron's laboratory is not clear. So one would expect the sorcerer's laboratory is saturated in magic. Ever careful, Cynthia sensed the aura, and as she'd done before, cast a spell to reveal the surprises that Diana had in store for intruders. Geralt and Adalbert stayed sharp and waited patiently. No illusion melted away to reveal a marvelous machine. Clearly more of Diana's handiwork, the expedition had reached its goal, and it was time for the Witcher and the Nilfgaardians to settle up. Yet the artifact stood there, begging them to look closer, beckoning them to touch it. Cynthia told it, Diana's artifact would tap an emotional bond between its user and another individual to establish a magical connection, even over a great distance. Intrigued, Geralt was eager to use it, and if only to resolve one of the mysteries that still plagued him. Cynthia did not protest. Adalbert, on the other hand, categorically forbade the Witcher from approaching the contraption. This was the last straw. The tension that had been building between the mage and the Witcher exploded in a single act of anger. Adalbert hurled an accessory nasty curse at Geralt, and a fight ensued. Yet Geralt was not alone. Cynthia had enough of Adalbert's behavior, and she and the mage had been able to agree how to divide the loot. The fight could very well rid her of the whole set of problems, so she simply took the Witcher's side. All Adalbert's objections died with him. Cynthia let the Witcher use the artifact just once, which pleased Geralt anyway. Information he gleaned through this bolt of magic proved most useful. His work done, it was time for Geralt to go. The Witcher and the sorceress parted on peaceful, one could almost say friendly terms. Cynthia disappeared through a portal, Diana's artifact in tow. Our hero went back to his own matters, urgent in and of themselves. Ooh, these are quite long ones. From a bygone era, Brass of Bernard, a learned sorceress whom our hero met in Lochmuin, told Geralt an interesting story about the Vrans, the members of the extinct, intelligent reptilian race loved and ward, and gathered treasure. The Vrans were adapted at securing their riches, and they placed magical guardians near their hoards, and these are activate should somehow carrying a token to strive with the powers of power. Words of power necessary to open the passage come nearby. These guardians would allow them into the treasuries only those who knew the password. Geralt kept Brass of Ice in mind, and since it was likely that the document he found in the haunted house of the Pontar contained a Vran password, he decided to search Lochmuin for a spot where it might be useful. As he wandered Lochmuin sewers, Geralt chanced upon a strange creature resembling a will-o'-the-wisp. The being asked him a question in incomprehensible dialect. The cat got Geralt's tongue, but unfortunately, the notes taken from Malget's house seemed to glow faintly at that moment, which began to suspect the meeting was not accidental and that it might result in interesting things. Then our hero remembered Brass of Bernard's tale of Varen Guardian, so he began looking through the manuscript from the haunted house in search of answers, which was in sense of such haste to discover the artifact with Vran's secrets that he made a mistake when uttering the password. He was considered an intruder and perished with the blast of magical energy. Geralt read the password from Malget's notes correctly. Varen Guardian opened a magical portal and disappeared. Well, the riddles had hardly ended. The Witcher passed the portal and emerged in the locked room. The 7 braziers that stood within had to be used to open the door. It is, however, not unreasonable to assume that the Vrans became extinct because they found it hard to exit their homes. Geralt noticed that every action causes 2 reactions. If he lit an extinguished brazier, 2 others would be affected. Lit ones would extinguish, and extinguished ones would lit. Our hero began to notice a pattern of the workings of the magical riddle. Geralt managed to light all the braziers with the door unlocked to proceed. Geralt's patience was rewarded. Beyond the open door, another guardian awaited him, a mysterious being brought to life by the Browns. Geralt heard the guardian out, did not hesitate for an instant. He now saw was indeed the chosen one. The guardian had been awaiting, and then allowed the creature to use the artifact that was key to the prize. Having made use of the artifact, it was safe to contend the experience changed Geralt thoroughly. Ready like never before, he set off to complete the task that had brought him to Lochmuin. Mystic River. Geralt searched for quite a while, but he found a chest beneath Lochmuin's streets. In it was a treasure that, when combined with the Vran armor enhancements, could be forged into a barber's set of armor. However, a swordsmith was needed for that. Finding a properly schooled craftsman was easier than Geralt initially thought. Brass of Bernard, a legendary sorcerer smith, was present at the Sorcerer's Summit. For a moderate fee, he made the Vran armor for Geralt, so the adventure that stretched along the Pontar's Valley. Pontar's current came to an end. Scoia'tael. Witcher thought his adventures with Stilgar had ended. He could not have been more wrong. Noblemen attacked Geralt in the square in Lochmuin Square. The Witcher was forced to give him another beating. After that, he never saw Stilgar again. Poker face Lochmuin. Who would have thought the gambling would flourish in the ruins of Lochmuin? But it did. Geralt found partners for games of dice poker in one of the ruined buildings. A pair of elves, a sorcerer, and his apprentice, and a fallen warlock. 2 elves and 3 magicians make a full house. The Witcher decided it was a good omen to delve in gambling. First, he had a game with the elves. The elven woman was lucky in that it had not been a game of strip poker, and she lost all the money. Geralt thanked her politely and asked her partner to play a game. Geralt was not only able to take on a serious opponents after besting the elven pair, the sorceress first. Hocus pocus, abracadabra, the sorcerer was a misery, but his apprentice was a match for Geralt. The apprentice still had much clearance. She lost to Geralt, and the Witcher now could face the incredible Lockhart, a fallen mage and a dice poker master. Now that was a game. The incredible Lockhart cheated a bit, but to no avail, for Geralt cheated more. The Witcher won and is very proud of his victory. He already won fame as a consummate poker player in the north, but only defeating Lockhart brought him true championship. Glory to the champion. Okay, glad they mentioned that. That I beat the king at poker. Bringing on Lochmuin. Geralt came across an interesting notice on the board of the city square. A certain individual had challenged all those brave enough to arm wrestling duel, which was no weakling, and he enjoyed a plebeian pastime, so he took special note of the challenge. Without his enhancers, Nuber turned out to be an easy opponent. Geralt bested him at arm wrestling. Believe it or not, but my way friend turned out to be a champion above all others, for he bested the strongest, all the strong men of that time. He had no equals in arm wrestling. Let us honor him rightly. An encrypted manuscript. In one of the ruined passages in the Loch Marine, Geralt found a manuscript written in a strange language. Can't understand a thing of it, so he decided to find a professional who would help him decipher the document. The professional was Bras of Bernard, a sorcerer enamored of antiques. He decided that the book is encrypted with a spell, but that it could be broken. He needed ingredients for the counter spell: the formones of an Dagger Queen, the blood of a Necker warrior, the brain of a Bulvor, a rare thing, and a harpy egg. Though a Rotvik's tongue would serve as a cheap substitute for an egg. With no other choice, the Witcher started looking for the ingredients. And his effort was rewarded. Bras used the ingredients and cast a decoding spell. He revealed that the book contained instructions for creating a powerful sword named Carme. Bars knew a thing or two about weapons and was a sorcerer on top of that. He was able to prepare the blade for the Witcher. Gargoyle contract. Due to attacks by gargoyles living in the ruins, not many were willing to attend the Lochmuin summit. The problem became serious enough that the sorcerers decided to hire a Witcher. Luckily, our hero was at hand. Geralt has always decided to learn more about the monsters through fighting them and reading learned tomes. Witcher learned the gargoyles are magical creatures, posted as city guards. They attacked anyone who entered an area protected by a spell, finding and deactivating the magical seals. The bound of the gargoyles would be enough to solve the problem. Armed with a sharp sword and knowledge, the Witcher stood looking at the seals. Geralt wrote down the souls of the and blunted his blade, but he got rid of the gargoyles. His reward waited in the hands of Bras of Bernard. Bras of Bernard turned out to be a generous employer. The Witcher was pleased. Enter the dragon. Geralt ran for Sheila to Transylvania as fast as his legs could carry him. He could hear the sorcerer's voice in his head, and the more she said, the more he wanted to silence her. Yet Sheila held one more trump card, the dragon. Geralt spared the dragon's life, or perhaps I should say he spared Saskia, even though the sorceress may still have a hold on her mind. In any case, if all played out in agreement with the Witcher's code, and it matters little if this code is a fiction or not, which forbids the slaying of sapient beasts, the dragon was not Geralt's true enemy. Unlike Letho, it was with him that Geralt had a score to settle. Summon of Mages. Stormy Summon of Mages was in the amphitheater, but real emotions were only the beginning. Yorvith awaited Geralt in front of the amphitheater, and the Witcher would wonder how the attendees would react to the Scoia'tael leader's presence. The summit's main subject was Loremark, and rather the new kingdom formed in these lands that recognized Adrian and Cadwin. The Nilfgaardians trotted out the Kingslayer Letho, and the sorceress continued on about recreating the council and the conclave. Regret not being there for Geralt forgot half of the speeches, misremembered the other half, yet no one could forget the event that interrupted the summit. For Dragon in all its majesty appeared over the amphitheater. Chaos ruled the bleachers. Guess who had to face the beast? Spellbreaker. Having to choose between two sources of distress, Geralt decided to first save the one he had close at hand. He was not, however, altruistic. He wanted Philip to lift a spell controlling Saskia, a dagger capable necessary for what was hidden in Lady Alhart's quarters, and sorceress blinded and bound in Demeterian chains had to cooperate, willing or not. Yorvith waited in the sewer, leading to Philip's quarters. The elf had troubled monsters prowling the sewers. The Witcher sighed heavily, left the sorcerers under Yorvith's watchful eye, and took what he was best at, that is, exterminating monsters. The Witcher, as witchers tend to do, dealt with the monsters in no time. The way to Philippa's quarters was clear, and the hero could escort Yorvith and the sorcerers there. Finally, the three of them arrived in Philippa's quarters. Geralt started to look for the dagger called the Spellbreaker. The item was hidden in a magically protected chest that would only be opened by activating a runic sign. Candles had to be lit first, in the correct order as mentioned in Philippa's notes. The chest had been opened, and our heroes stopped paying attention to anything else for a moment. Philippa was freed from her Diamondinian chains, used the chance. She instantly transformed into owl and fled. Geralt and Yorvith, however, were detained by a magically summoned guardian of the dagger. But a golem cannot compare to swashbuckles like the Witcher and Yorvith. The monstrosity was defeated and the artifact was recovered. So saving the damsel in his distress was now in order. Yorvith, for obvious reasons, was not a presentable person, so he hid in a dark corner while Geralt went on to the Sorcerer's Summit. Another drink of water. Where is Triss Merigold? Geralt reached the elven city of Lochmuin. Ages earlier, the sorcerer Geoffrey Monarch had brought a group of human children gifted with spontaneous magical abilities here for training. Taught by the elven wise, the sorcerers became legendary sorcerers who aided the human pioneers. When the humans finally settled the continent, they repaid their debt of gratitude by destroying Lochmuin and slaughtering its inhabitants. The scenic city now ironically plays host to summon of sorcerers. The Nilfgaardian delegation was also taking part. The Black Ones had brought the kidnapped Triss Merigold with them. Pondering the fickleness of history, Geralt searched for any trace of the sorceress. Sheilard Fitzornisty was the key to her freedom. Here I must reproach our hero. Gil had been intent on freeing Triss and tracked her with immense effort, but in the end he failed in his task. The truest of sorceress kidnapper had freed her in his stead. You should know that Letho, though capable at times of mindless cruelty, often undiscriminating in the means he employed, had no personal quarrel with Merigold. He had abducted her when he needed to, but as the tale of the assassins, the kings came to a close, he decided he could afford to be generous and free the sorcerers from the Black Ones. Thus, blinded by his deception of catching Letho, the Witcher met Triss somewhat by chance, safe and unharmed. He immediately told her to stand aside for that moment, which is interesting only in one person, the Kingslayer. For a higher clause. Behold the last part of the story, Geralt and the Assassin of the Kings. They searched for the kidnapped Triss Merigold and the treacherous Sheilard to Temeria. Geralt arrived at Lochmuin in the ancient city, once inhabited by the elves, which was the company of Yorvith. Truly, should Geralt lead a manticore on the leash, you attract less attention from the onlookers. Meanwhile, the irony, the Knights of the Order of the Flaming Rose made the camp by the city gates. There was no way an elf, nay, one of the most famous and most wanted Scoia'tael, got through the gate without being accosted by knights. Yorvith turned from the path in order to find another way into the city, and Geralt faced a dilemma, to follow him or to have a look around the camp and search for familiar faces from Zima. As a Scoia'tael, Yorvith's quite experienced in finding hidden passages. You did not have to search for long as the path led straight to Lochmuin, which would follow the elf underground. Thanks to Yorvith's talent at sneaking unnoticed, the heroes got behind Lochmuin's city walls and started looking for Philippa Eilhart. By a stroke of luck, our heroes met Temerian soldiers discussing the sorceress they sought. Waiting and hiding, Geralt and Yorvith overheard that Philippa had been in prison. Luckily, an elven sewage system stretched into the city connected to the dungeon. Our spies split up. Yorvith went to search for the sorcerer's house, while Geralt headed into the sewers. The Witcher wasn't looking forward to trudging through the sewers again, and seriously considered surrendering to a patrol to get into the prison that way. Once again, which time was it? Geralt got imprisoned. This time he broke the rules of the summit that were enforced by inaugural knights in the Order of the Flaming Rose, but it's ill wind that blows nobody good. In the prison, the Witcher could have a chat with Philippa. King Radovid left, and emissary Fitzornisty dropped the presence of a man of a quill and ordered Geralt bound, then killed. Our hero would have died in the Black One's hands if it was not for hid Witcher training. What did he do? He used his Igni sign to burn through his bindings. However, Fitzornisty was too valuable a prize for Geralt to simply kill him. The mystery was, after all, his only way to imprison Triss. The Witcher faced a tough choice. He could free the wounded Philippa, look for her, or carry the stunned Fitzornisty to get Triss. The Assassin of the Kings. The story of Assassin of the Kings ended in Lochmuin, but before the conclusion arrived, a series of unexpected events took place. If we should know more about Letho, to the power that stuck behind him, the motives he had spurred, and the fairest deeds, be patient and listen. Geralt had acquired another piece of the puzzle. In talking to the prison Philippa, he learned that Sheilard Tarnseville had hired the assassin assassins the kings on behalf of a secret organization known as the Lodge of Sorceresses. These magicians, however, had underestimated Letho's treacherous nature and lost control over him. Interestingly, Temeria had also been a member of the Lodge, at least until the other sorcerers had stopped trusting her. All the revelations were not long in coming. After fighting the magically controlled Dragonlock Marine, Geralt finally got to Sheila de Tarnseville. This time, Geralt allowed her to flee, and knowing that her deeds would be widely known and that the sorceress was done for. After the fight, Geralt returned to the city to find Letho. As he climbed the wall, Yorvith offered him a helping hand. The Witcher and Elf headed to meet Letho. The city was in chaos. Sorcerers were pursued and murdered. Factions clashed. All vestiges of civility had been abandoned. There's no way that peace talks or parley would resume. Even Geralt, or perhaps especially he, had to defend himself from attackers. However, nothing could stop the witch from reaching the Kingslayer. Witcher finally found the Kingslayer. Temeria ran to Geralt, having been freed from the Nilfgaardian's hands by Letho. Geralt was happy, don't get me wrong, but at the moment his desire to confront the Kingslayer eclipsed all others. Witcher told his companions they had private business to attend to, forbade interference, and went to see Letho. And if this is the last journey reading until Witcher 3, thank you for watching.